What if I told you that breaking down in the middle of nowhere in the Canadian Rockies, with no cell service and a storm approaching, would become the moment that saved my relationship and changed how I see adventure forever? By the end of this video, you'll discover the one thing 85% of couples never learn about traveling together, and why most road trip relationships don't survive the journey. It's 2:47 p.m. on a gray October afternoon, somewhere between Jasper and Calgary. The heater in our rented Jeep Cherokee is blasting, but there's a chill in the air that has nothing to do with the temperature outside. I'm gripping the steering wheel, staring at the endless ribbon of asphalt cutting through towering pine trees, while Sarah sits in the passenger seat, arms crossed, staring out the window in complete silence. We'd been on the road for 6 days. 6 days that were supposed to be the romantic getaway that would fix everything. 6 days that had instead become a highlight reel of every problem we'd been avoiding back home. This was a mistake, I'm thinking, watching Sarah's reflection in the side mirror. We can barely stand each other in our own apartment. What made us think trapping ourselves in a car for a week would somehow make things better? The silence between us has weight now. It's not the comfortable quiet of two people who know each other well. It's the heavy, suffocating silence of two people who've run out of safe things to say. 3 months earlier, we'd been planning our future together, talking about moving in officially, maybe getting a dog, taking that photography workshop we'd both been excited about. But somewhere between the daily grind, work stress, and the 1,000 little compromises that slowly chip away at a relationship, we'd stopped really seeing each other. The road trip was Sarah's idea. "We just need to get away from all the noise," she'd said, scrolling through photos of mountain lakes and scenic overlooks. "Remember how good we used to be at adventure?" But here's the thing about running away together. You can't leave your problems at the border. They pack themselves into your suitcase, settle into the back seat, and wait for the perfect moment to rear their heads. Our first fight had been about navigation, then about music, then about where to stop for lunch. Each argument seemingly small and silly, but really about control, about being heard, about the growing distance between two people who used to finish each other's sentences. And then, at exactly 2:51 p.m., everything changed. The engine makes this sound, not quite a cough, not quite a wheeze, but something mechanical and definitely not good. I ease off the accelerator, and the Jeep starts losing power. "What's happening?" Sarah asks, and for the first time in hours, she's looking at me instead of out the window. "I don't know." The engine sputters again, more violently this time. I guide us onto the shoulder, just as the Jeep gives one final dramatic shudder and dies completely. I turn the key. Nothing. Try again. The engine doesn't even attempt to turn over. We sit there for a moment, engine ticking as it cools, the sound of wind through pine trees suddenly very loud through the windows. I pull out my phone. No signal. Of course. "How far are we from the last town?" Sarah's voice is steady, practical, but I can hear the undercurrent of worry. I check the GPS. It still shows our location even without signal. About 40 kilometers back to Hinton, maybe 60 ahead to the next town. That's when we see it. Dark clouds building over the peaks to the west, moving fast. The weather in the Rockies can change in minutes, and those clouds look angry. "We should stay with the car," I say, more to convince myself than Sarah. "Someone will come by eventually." But even as I say it, I realize we haven't seen another vehicle in over an hour. This isn't exactly the Trans-Canada Highway. Sarah unbuckles her seatbelt and gets out. I watch through the windshield as she walks to the front of the Jeep, pops the hood, and starts examining the engine like she actually knows what she's looking at. "Sarah, what are you doing?" "Something," she calls back, which is more than we're accomplishing sitting here feeling sorry for ourselves. And that's when it hits me. For 6 days, I'd been watching Sarah retreat into herself, becoming this quiet, distant version of the woman I fell in love with. But here she is, faced with a real problem, and suddenly she's present, engaged, the Sarah I remember. I join her at the engine. Neither of us knows much about car repair, but we start checking obvious things: battery connections, fluid levels, anything that looks loose or disconnected. Our hands are getting dirty, and the first drops of rain are starting to fall. There. Sarah points to what looks like a disconnected hose near the air filter. That doesn't look right. She's absolutely correct. The hose has somehow worked itself loose, probably from all the mountain driving. It's such a simple fix that I almost laugh. If we'd been fighting about this in a mechanic's shop, we'd have felt ridiculous. But here's the thing. Fixing it isn't simple without tools. The clamp that holds the hose in place has slipped down too far for us to reach with just our fingers. We need something thin and strong to push it back up. The rain is starting to come down harder now, and the temperature is dropping fast. Sarah shivers, and I realize she's been standing in the cold, getting wet, trying to solve our problem while I was still stuck in my head about our relationship. "Here, take my jacket," I say, starting to shrug it off. "I'm fine," she replies, but her teeth are chattering. "Sarah." I stop what I'm doing and really look at her. "Take the jacket, please." Something in my voice must be different, because she looks at me, really looks at me, for the first time in days. She takes the jacket. "We need something thin enough to reach that clamp," she says, wrapping my jacket around her shoulders. "Like a coat hanger or—" "The antenna," I interrupt. "The radio antenna, it telescopes." It takes us 20 minutes to figure out how to remove the antenna without breaking it, and another 10 to maneuver it into position to push the clamp back where it belongs. We're both soaked by now, and our hands are numb from the cold, but we're working together in a way we haven't in months. "Try it now," Sarah says, wiping rain from her face. I turn the key, and nothing. My heart sinks. All that work, and we're still stuck. "Wait," Sarah says, and she sounds excited. "Try giving it some gas while you turn it over. The engine might be flooded." I press the accelerator halfway down and turn the key. The engine cranks once, twice, and then, miracle of miracles, it catches. The rough idle smooths out after a few seconds, and we have power again. Sarah lets out a whoop that echoes off the mountains, and suddenly we're both laughing and hugging in the rain like we've just won the lottery. But here's the thing. It's not just about the car starting. It's about the way Sarah's face lights up with genuine pride and accomplishment. It's about realizing that for the past 20 minutes we've been a team again. Not two people trapped in a metal box with our individual problems, but partners working toward a solution together. "We did that," Sarah says, grinning at me with rain dripping from her hair. "We actually fixed it." "You figured it out," I reply. "The hose, the flooding trick, that was all you." She shakes her head. "We figured it out. Together." We drive in silence for the next few miles, but this time it's different. This time, Sarah reaches over and takes my hand. Her fingers are still cold from working on the engine, but her grip is warm and sure. "I forgot," she says quietly. "Forgot what?" "How good we are at solving things together, when we actually try." And she's right. Back home, we'd gotten into the habit of handling problems separately. Work stress? We'd deal with it individually, and then bring the leftover frustration home. Money concerns? We'd have parallel anxiety instead of collaborative problem solving. Even simple things like planning our weekends had become these careful negotiations instead of shared adventures. But out here, with no cell service and no one else to rely on, we'd remembered something essential about ourselves as a couple. We're good at this. We're good at being a team when it matters. "I've been thinking," I say, as we wind through a valley filled with golden aspens. "Maybe the problem isn't that we don't know how to travel together." Sarah squeezes my hand. "Maybe the problem is that we stopped traveling together even when we were at home." That night, we find a small cabin resort near Canmore. Instead of our usual routine, separate showers, separate laptops, separate sides of the bed, we sit on the porch with hot chocolate and actually talk. About what went wrong, about what we missed about each other, about what we want our relationship to feel like going forward. Here's what I learned on that rainy afternoon in the Rockies. The best relationships aren't the ones that never have problems. They're the ones where you face problems together, as a team instead of as opponents. That breakdown didn't just get us back on the road, it got us back to each other. Because sometimes you have to be completely stuck before you remember how good you are at finding solutions together. If you're watching this with someone you love, or if you're planning an adventure with your person, I want you to remember this. The moments that test you aren't the ones that break you. They're the ones that remind you why you chose each other in the first place. Sarah and I finished that road trip stronger than we'd been in months, not because everything was perfect, but because we'd remembered how to be partners instead of just passengers in each other's lives. Hit that like button if you believe that the best adventures aren't just about the places you go, but about who you become when you face challenges together. And subscribe because I'm sharing more stories about finding connection through adventure, sometimes in the most unexpected moments. Here's your challenge. The next time you face a problem with your partner, friend, or travel companion, resist the urge to solve it separately. Ask yourself, how can we tackle this together? You might be surprised by what you discover about each other. In the comments, tell me about a time when a challenge actually brought you closer to someone. Was it during travel, or maybe just in everyday life? I love hearing how obstacles become opportunities for connection. And remember, sometimes the best view isn't from the mountaintop. Sometimes it's from the side of the road, working together to get back on your journey. The road trip continues, and so do we. Together. Sarah, if you're watching this, I still have that antenna in our toolbox, just in case.